and we're going to talk about fabric and the national anthem. That's today's excitement.
All right, we're on.
We're on. Oh, I don't have comments out, so you're going to have to read comments. Who cut your hair, Eddie?
Hope.
Who?
Hope, Daniel's girlfriend.
Is she a hairdresser, or is she just like, I'm going to make your hair awesome?
She went. I think she went to hair school, but dropped out or something. But she does a lot.
I mean, you look like you need gold chains and an IROC Z.
I don't know what that is. Well, I know what a gold chain is. I don't know.
You don't know what an IROC Z is?
No.
Danny, do you know what an IROC Z is?
Yes,
Does he not look like he should be driving one?
absolutely.
Joey Buttafuoco!
Do you even know who Joey is?
Am I on? Are we live? Did that just go? Did that just go out live to everybody? My Joey Buttafuoco remarks. I love you, Eddie. That's the only reason I make these awful jokes. Hold on a second here. Because I don't want this phone because it rings while I'm. Okay, so welcome to an episode of with Brent. Today we're just going to do kind of a quick. Which camera am I on? That one. We're just going to do a quick fabric review. I got a little history of some stuff if you're interested. We have a full house sewing here today, so we're not going to go too long just because, you know, you all don't want to hear them going crazy sewing. But we did want to show off, everybody may be aware of, there's this big shop hop coming, the All New England shop hop. And in that shop hop, Benartex has made a specific line of fabric for New England for this shop hop. And here is the panel. So I just wanted to show off this line of fabric today so you can all get excited about it. We do have it available if you do want to buy it now. But I'm sure it'll be, if you're going to do the shop hop, I'm sure it'll be available in a lot of the shops. But it's kind of a fun panel. Just has like all the states that are in the shop hop. Of course, we're represented down here in the corner with New Hampshire. And so that's the panel. You've got a nice border print that goes with it that kind of matches that. Is that exciting? Ooh, border print. And then everything kind of follows along that same theme. You've got some really kind of fun fall. It's a really nice line. You've got some great leaves here. This fun kind of woodsy pines there. This great kind of New Englandy, has all the fun New England things on it, you know. New England has all your.
There was something on there that I didn't know what it was.
Oh, which one? This one?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean didn't know what it was?
There's like a weird word on there.
You have Loon, hiking trails, freedom and unity, Boston, New England.
Johnny Cakes.
Johnny Cakes.
Do you know what I don't know what that is.
I think that's like a Boston. That's like a.
It's like a pancake.
It's like a pancake, yeah.
Is that?
And this is the same thing, just with a white background.
Yeah,
Why is? Oh, never mind. Oh, I don't have my. Is the lighting all right? I just realized all the lights are off.
It's all right.
It's
I think
all right?
We should turn it on though.
There, does that help?
Yeah.
We're really prepared today. So there's the yellow leaves. You have another red, but it's a really nice kind of a collection of just some good New Englandy kind of. If you're all about New England, which we are here in New Hampshire, you've got some really nice kind of fabrics. So that's all the fabric for the New England shop hop. That came in, and that was pretty much all I had planned for today. But then I'm like, well, everybody wants something. They can't just do fabric. And for my fans that like the history, I thought we're gonna get into a little bit of history that also is into New England. But because we're doing a class today, I don't have anything to sew. So we can keep going. Are we bored?
No.
You just started.
Keep
No,
going.
keep going. Okay, so we've got the fabric. What do you know about the national anthem, Eddie?
The guy was on the ship or something.
Yeah, why was he on the ship?
Because he was captured by the English.
That's the story we're going to get into today. Because we all know that Francis Scott Keyes wrote the national anthem, right?
Yeah.
Do we know that? Because his name's at the bottom. Francis Scott Keyes, national anthem. But do you know about Dr. Bean? Dr. Bean is really the reason that Francis Scott Key was on the ship. So Dr. Bean is a doctor, grew up in Philadelphia, lived outside of Washington. So when was the national anthem written?
The 1800s. 1800.
Yeah.
Late 1800s.
Early 1800s.
Early 1800s.
War of 1812. What was the War of 1812 about? We're getting into all the good stuff.
Sugar tax, I don't know.
Sugar tax?
I don't know.
I thought you said sugar tits. I'm like,
Sugar tax.
Anyway, no. War of 1812 was actually because the British were kind of salty for after losing the First Revolution. You know, they agreed to the treaty and everything, but they were still funding a lot of the Native Americans that were fighting against the new colonies. So a lot of like the Native American, I guess Indian's not politically correct anymore, but the French and Indian Wars, that sort of stuff. They British were still funding a lot of that. The other thing that the British were doing, that this is probably the bigger reason this led to war, is that they would press gang American citizens into the British Navy. Like if the British came across an American merchant ship, they'd be like, we need some new sailors, and they would just take the merchants and say, you're a British citizen, you're now in the British Navy, and that kind of irritated them. So the answer to that, the United States went to war, the War of 1812. At which time the British promptly marched on Washington and burnt it. They just burnt it. They marched on Washington, burnt down Washington. They burnt down the president's mansion. They did a bunch of stuff. And so then they're going to march on Baltimore. This is where the story starts, okay? So they just burnt down Washington. They're marching on Baltimore. And there's a little town outside of Washington that pretty much gets deserted, except for Mr. Bean, or Dr. Bean's house. Dr. Bean is kind of a wealthy kind of doctor dude. And he's like, well, you can use my house as a base of operations. So he lets the British come in, set up camp, and do their thing. And in the meantime, what happens is there's some British deserters that desert the British Army, and they go over to Dr. Bean's friend's house. I don't know if his friend, neighbor basically, loot his house and steal all his food and just pretty much destroy the guy's house. And so the dude's like, let's hunt these guys down and take care of business. And Dr. Bean is like, I believe in law and order, let's do this. So these colonists go and hunt down these deserters, these British deserters, and throw them in jail. Because they're gonna bring them to justice. One of the deserters, the British Army deserters, escapes jail, runs to one of the British ships in the harbor, and convinces the admiral that he's been captured by these people, and so they then go arrest Dr. Bean and his friend for throwing British deserters in jail. That's the story, okay? So this is how Dr. Bean ends up on a prisoner on a British warship in the Baltimore harbor. Because I had to find all this out, because Francis Scott Key then, one of Bean's friends is like, we better get a lawyer. So who do they get? Mr. Keyes. Francis Scott Keyes is a well-known lawyer. And he's like, I'll go get him out of there. So he sails out to the ship. Explains the situation. He's like, dude, Mr. Admiral, sir, Dr. Bean was just, doing the good work of the Lord by capturing these deserters. You really shouldn't be in British jail. He was doing your job. So he puts forth a really good argument, and they're like, okay, you win. We're not gonna keep Dr. Bean as a prisoner. You've proven your case, blah blah. But we have a problem. Okay, this is on September 5th. He secures Dr. Bean's release. Huge problem though. They were just on the flagship of the British Navy sitting in the Baltimore harbor. And the problem with that is now Dr. Bean and Mr. Keyes know everything the British are going to do to Fort McHenry, which just happens to be sitting across the water, blocking in the harbor. And so the British are kind of like, dude, we can't let you go back to shore because you know what's going to happen. So this is on September 5th. They're like, that we're hitting that fort on September 12th. So we're not letting you go ashore. We're going to escort you to your ship. You guys are going to hang tight till we burn Baltimore to the ground. Then we'll let you leave. That's basically. So that's how Francis Scott Keyes ends up out in the middle of the harbor watching the siege of the Battle of Baltimore. He wasn't a prisoner per se, but the British said you can't go ashore. And the thing is, this what was really interesting to me, is he had to have known what was going to happen. Like, I think when you listen to the national anthem, they talk about the bombs bursting in air, the flag was there, and this great epic battle. The thing about it is you put yourself in Keyes' shoes. He's watching this from the shore. He has seen the might of the British Navy. He was on their ship. He knows their plan. And he's fairly certain that Fort McHenry is pretty much done. And all he can do is just watch from his boat as the place gets destroyed. But what happens on I think it was the 13th of September, after 25 hours of battle, to take Fort McHenry, the sun comes up, and as a big FU to the British sitting in the harbor, they raise the garrison flag of Fort McHenry to say, yeah, we're still here. And that's the whole, the Star Spangled Banner over the rampart she waves. Because that morning they hoist it up, and the British see it, and they're all kind of like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Wrapped it up, called it a day, and left. But had Baltimore fallen, if Baltimore had fallen in the Battle of Baltimore that we're talking about, it's quite possible that we would be saluting our King Charles at this point, that we would be British subjects.
No, because we would have never let him kill Diane.
This is true. Diane would have lived. We could have been, subjects of Queen Diane. Because they might have moved Buckingham Palace to like Montana, and then the paparazzi wouldn't be, yeah. And then she could have lived happily on a ranch in Montana, and then it wouldn't, and
There would be no Yellowstone. There would be
yeah, and Harry would have never met Meghan. It would, how would the world have been different if we had lost?
I suppose we'd all be drinking tea while we're quilting.
But you probably wouldn't talk like that. You'd still talk American. But we could be drinking tea.
We would have to be
What's that?
America.
America. So that's the story of the Star Spangled Banner. And that's all I have for today. That and some really nice New England fabric. It's nice New England. Maryland is on the New England shop hop, so that works out. What? What's that look for? You don't think Maryland's New England?
I don't think Maryland is.
Is it? I think it is, isn't it?
No, New England's only like 6 states.
I thought it was on here.
New York's not even in New England.
I suppose I should answer that phone. You're right, Maryland's not in the New England. It's Connecticut. Rhode Island is what I saw. Does anybody want to talk to you? So yes, no, Maryland isn't in the New England shop hop. Rhode Island is. I get the two confused. I forget that Rhode Island's actually a state. But anyway, that's all I've got for today. That was all the excitement that I had planned. Like I said, we're kind of keeping it short.
Rhode Island.
What's that?
You should have done the history of Rhode Island.
Rhode Island's kind of weird. Isn't Rhode Island like one of those weird states started by like some crackpot religious dude? And
It was a state created for criminals to be held.
yeah.
in.
Of course, most of New England started by like crackpot religious people. That's why they're like executing witches and stuff. There's like a whole thing about that. Maybe we'll get into that sometime. Anyway, buy New England fabric. It's really cool. And get ready for the New England shop hops coming up in I think September. I'll have more information on that as we get closer. And that's pretty much all I've got for today. It's been kind of a crazy week with the holiday and everything. But I'm glad y'all joined in. Did we have anybody watching? Like, is anybody watching?
There's 6 viewers.
6 viewers,
The
okay.
graph is trending upwards.
Oh,
So that means
and we're getting ready to call it a day.
it's not trending downwards.
Is there any comments that I need to respond to before I...
Rhonda said hi.
Hello. Isn't Rhonda in Texas?
Yeah.
See, Texas has got a whole history of its own with like the Alamo and stuff. So, hello, Rhonda. And didn't the Texas... That's a whole other conversation, never mind. Anyway, thanks for watching. What's
the
that?
Texas guy, didn't he have a hat?
Davy Crockett.
Why did...
Davy,
Is there raccoons in Texas?
I don't know.
So we had to import that.
They've got to have raccoons in Texas. Why wouldn't they have raccoons in Texas?
I don't know, it just seems
They have
like-
armadillos in Texas.
They have
Oh yeah,
armadillos
but it
and
seems
possums.
like too hot to have raccoons down there.
Why would it be too hot for raccoons?
I feel like raccoons...
I
eat
think
trees.
trash pandas are super adaptive and they'll go anywhere where... Okay, no, they've got to have them in Texas, down south. I mean, the idea of a
I don't think
coon...
they do.
What do...
Well, I think they have raccoons in the south, somewhat south.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that they have them in Texas because
Why wouldn't they have raccoons in Texas?
it's way too hot for them. Yep.
But if they've got raccoons in like Georgia, why wouldn't they have raccoons in Texas?
There's not a lot of them in
I love how sidetracked we are. We've got nothing at all to do with sewing
There's
today.
not a lot of them in Georgia. There's a lot of possums.
So maybe you had a possum hat. No, because possums don't have cool tails. But maybe that's what made his raccoon hat so cool, is because not everybody had one.
Well, it's because he killed them all for his hat.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure raccoons that live in Texas.
Okay, yeah, they live in all of North America.
Yeah.
Europe, Japan, and the Caucasus.
The Caucasus.
I don't know what that is.
That's where Caucasians come from.
Is that real?
You think I'm joking?
I've never heard of.
The Caucasus? That's where Caucasians come from. Yes.
I thought that's where roosters came from.
The Caucasus is like it's like in Russia, isn't it?
Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and southern Russia.
Yeah, Yeah, is that where Caucasians? I think that's through the Caucasians, or is it the Cossacks? Cossacks and the Poles. I could be wrong. Well, I'm pretty sure the Caucasian comes from the Caucasus. But anyway, I'm way off base, and am I right?
Yeah, it says Caucasian.
Caucasians come from the Caucasus, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
But isn't like Caucasian white people?
Well, that's what it's come to mean, yeah. But most of the white people tend to have like more of a Nordic history. A lot of people, not necessarily from the Caucasus. I think this is like a whole nother.
There's a lot of raccoons.
What's that?
There's a lot of raccoons in Texas.
Yep, a lot of raccoons in Texas. So we've solved that mystery. So on that note, I guess we should call it a day. There are raccoons in Texas, and Caucasians come from the Caucasus.
Victoria asks if the upgrade came in yet.
No.
Susie says hi.
Hello.
Janice says welcome back.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a soggy vacation. We went to the Bay of Fundy and we got rained out, and so we just said this isn't fun and came home. But I would recommend the Fundy Trail. If anybody is, one of the things that we were impressed by with the Fundy Trail is it is probably as good as any of the Western national parks as far as views and like scenery goes. You don't get that a lot east of the Mississippi. Fundy Trail definitely has that kind of feel to it. Very similar to like a similar but not the same as like a Bryce's Canyon or something like that. So I'd recommend it to anybody. And it's, a day's drive instead of 2 days drive. Anyway, I think that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. So on each other.